Marketing tools.
Oh, veteran.
Oh, man. All right, we're bringing to order this Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal session on May 22nd, 10 a.m. Justin, you want to lead us in the flag salute?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for that. Welcome all. Commissioner Sterrett has excused absence today, so it'll just be me and Commissioner King. Do we have any additions or subtractions from the joint calendar?
Double check really quick, make sure I don't have anything on here. No, I don't think so.
All right, moving on. D is public comment. If there's anybody in the audience that has public comment, please raise your hand, or if you're online, raise your virtual hand. Seeing none. E is presentations, and today we have the Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue, and we have Stefan Myers and Brian Smith with us today. Come on up. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you.
Did the mic share?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so good morning. Thanks again for having us. I'm Brian Smith, Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue, Division Chief of Government and Public Affairs. Stefan Myers is our Public Affairs Manager. We have a brief presentation, a look back at 2024, and with that, we'll get started.
Cool.
Topics we're going to cover today. First slide. What we're doing, that'll give you a quick little brief rundown on me. For those that haven't met me, I have lived in McMinnville for over 30 years. Began my fire service career at McMinnville Fire as a volunteer in 1994, was hired in McMinnville in 1997 as a firefighter paramedic, and I've been at Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue for almost 25 years. My wife's a teacher at Washer Elementary, and she's a Linfield grad. So for me, it's great to be in McMinnville. My commute in this morning down Evans Street was uneventful.
Yeah.
So pleasure for me to be here this morning. So our topics to cover today. So again, we're going to kind of team tackle this presentation. And after the intro, Stefan's going to talk about wildfire deployments 2024 and how we're prepping for wildfire season this year. He's also going to talk about a response snapshot of the call volume and call types we had in Newburgh last year. And then I'm going to give an update on some innovative things we're doing on the EMS. And then I'm going to also provide a quick rundown of where we are with our local option levy that voters approved on the May ballot last year. And then Stefan will talk about recruitment and challenges and opportunities we have around recruitment. And then we're going to, again, team up on a bond and capital projects update. Well, he'll talk about what's happening at our King City Station 35 rebuild, as well as the rebuild happening planned for downtown Newburgh Station 20. And then I'll provide an update on what we're doing at our training center, as well as rural Newburgh Station 22. So, cool. Next slide, please.
Yeah. So with that, can you hear me okay? Perfect. Actually serve, and let me step back real quick. So I'm the public affairs manager. So I manage our public information efforts and all of our work that we do and staying connected to our local governments, cities and counties that we serve throughout Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue. I also was working on and got to say hi to Christian here in the early process of when the city of Newburgh and Newburgh Rural had approached TVFNR about annexation. So working with the community through that process. So it's a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm talking about Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue. But I'm going to start with a statewide picture, which is as a member also of the Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office incident management teams. I get deployed to many disasters that happen throughout the state of Oregon. This last year, when it comes to wildfire, I had the most deployments I've ever experienced. And that bore out in the numbers, which was 1.9 million acres that were burned last year in the state of Oregon. We had 88 task forces that were mustered throughout the state of Oregon and brought to respond to those communities that were being impacted. We also had support from California partners who had to come in and help because as we started to deplete some of our local resources, we really had to look to our partners and our neighbors to come help. As far as Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue, we had 31 individuals that are a part of our wildland team. They have specific training, a little bit more elevated. All firefighters within Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue have wildland training, but we have a certain group that puts even more into that, and they deploy throughout the state. We had 31 of those that help deploy. We have many members from the Newburgh and Yamhill County area that are some of our greatest wildland firefighters and very knowledgeable in that area that deploy, and they did between June 25th and September 13th. After that busy fire season, it wasn't over. As you watched on TV, California became in dire need of support. So the Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office helped mobilize with many fire departments throughout the area. Within 24 hours, they were able to get 370 firefighters on the road, headed to go help our neighbors who had helped us during a busy wildfire season. TFNR sent 14 personnel from Washington County and a task force from Yamhill County that responded down there. And they did incredible work to help communities and support those areas that have been deeply impacted by the fires. We also had our battalion chief that is stationed at Station 21. He serves as an incident commander on the Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office team, and he helped oversee that whole group to make sure they were well taken care of, safe, and supported through that deployment. But essentially, it gave us an opportunity to go and help our neighbor. And when we do these, we bring a lot of knowledge and information back. So our wildland team, as they are working through different fuel types and communities and challenges, we learn a lot about how we can deploy even better. So we bring those back as we consider future training and how to improve our response here within our communities. And then also we do have to consider, there's times when we say we can't deploy a certain amount of people because we do need to have a critical, effective firefighting force here within the areas that we serve. So we have to make those tough calls on that. There's also a process in which there's EMACs and agreements for being reimbursed for the time for those firefighters and overtime that's incurred as a part of those processes so that as a fire district, we can be made whole to take care of the communities that we serve. So with that, that's everything on our busy wildfire season. Next, I'm going to go to hopefully you can see all that, but this is a snapshot for the area that we serve within Yamhill County. So that includes the city of Newburgh and the surrounding rural area. The first thing I want to point out to you is you'll notice that bar across the incidents that says dispatched as and situation found. So dispatched as is what we get called to. So when somebody calls, and whether it comes in through Newburgh Dundee Dispatch or through YCOM, they get transferred to whatever needs to be deployed based on the information we're getting. When we actually arrive, that's when firefighters fill out the reports and put in the information to let us know what did they actually find. An example of why those would differentiate is, let's say it's a really cold day in downtown Newburgh, and all of a sudden somebody sees some white smoke coming from behind a home. They call, they think a fire is maybe occurring, and we just see an active laundry situation going on in a dryer vent that is exhausting smoke. Good intent, somebody thought there was an emergency and they're trying to make us aware, but not necessarily what we were dispatched on. So that's the differentiation. The other thing to be aware of is, as you can see, 7 out of 10 of the calls that we respond to in the area of Yamhill County are medical in nature. So EMS is a major work that we perform, and we have great talented paramedics and EMTs that serve on our medics and all of our apparatus, which makes them ALS rigs. But that's a huge part of what we do. Now, also, it's important to note that while fires and hazardous material situations are rare and don't occur as much. When those happen, whether it's a wildland situation or whether it's a structure, the quicker that we can get an effective firefighting force on scene really dictates how that event is going to go. So we need to have our heavy apparatus, we need to have our well-trained firefighters positioned and ready to quickly respond. For even if they're low occurring, they require heavy assets and a specific level of training to be impactful. So we have to strike that balance of what we respond to quite often with also the important calls that we respond to and can mitigate. Through there, you'll see there's a number of other things that we track. I also want to point out when it comes to our hazardous materials team, they're actually a regional asset. We respond not only within the borders of within Yamhill County that we serve, but also all the way out to Tillamook. So we have these specialty teams and regional assets that, whether it's mutual aid or whether it's how they're designated by the state, respond beyond our borders and support. And you can see we do have still a fair amount of structure fires. A lot of cooking fires are what we see quite often. And vegetation fires in the area. We actually had 40. That's just pretty good number. Those can be anything from a small brush fire to a larger one. The more notable ones happened in Washington County that I was aware of this year, but we do get a lot of those during those dry season when fuels really get to low humidity and those RH levels drop. That can be one that we see quite often. So with that, that's kind of a snapshot of what it looks like. The most important thing that we want to impart is we're data driven. This information is how we decide where assets go, where stations should be placed, and how we need to make sure that we're ready to respond for the incidents that we're seeing. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. One last one I want to note is the year over year. So when it comes to our call volume, we have been seeing a really steep increase for quite a few years, but we've seen that somewhat level out. And so while we still have the same types of calls, we aren't seeing the year over year increase that we've seen in the past. So we're adjusting to that, and we'll talk a little bit more about our staffing and recruitment a little bit later when it comes to that. Any questions or? Okay, we'll go on to EMS.
All right, so Stefan gave a really good kind of snapshot of the call volume and call types, and he mentioned that the majority of our call types, as I'm sure you understand, is medical related. So the majority of the time we're responding to calls that are medical in nature. And so over the years, we've identified that growing population and aging population, demographic shifts, we're challenged by how do we manage the call volume around EMS. And so we've been putting in place some innovations that are trying to ask and answer the question, what is the right resource at the right time for the right patient, while still providing high quality service and the type of fast and effective response that our citizens expect and deserve. So with that, we have some new innovative things I'd like to share with you. One is our APCP program, Advanced Practice Community Paramedic Program, APCP. That's a single unit response, responding to calls that are low in acuity and typically what we might refer to as high utilizers, people that are relying heavily on the EMS system or 911 system, maybe as their primary care provider. And they have needs that are different than other 911 users. So targeting that group, and so they'll go out to those individuals in their homes on a regular basis and work with them on getting them care and services that are outside what we provide, but available in the community.
Is that that's assessed at a YCOM call, or is that you preemptively assessing that?
We're assessing that based on data we have collected. So existing call volume data that we know, or that crews help us identify. And then we go through a process of outreach and then communication and then follow-up. And so remains to be seen the impacts we'll have, but so far it's off to a really good start, I would say. And what it's doing besides getting these individuals individualized, customized care that they need in their homes, it's preventing them from calling 911 as often for the heavy assets and the transport units that might not be necessary.
How long has that been rolled out?
It's been almost a year, right?
Yeah, I think we're coming up on a year.
Okay.
Yeah, so. A newer program that just started in January is the Advanced Resource Medic, or ARM unit, Advanced Resource Medic. So this is a pilot program with grant funding from the state of Oregon that is allowing us to go out into the community through dispatch, and provide a level of care that our paramedics on scene cannot necessarily provide, because we are linking up with, in this case, a nurse practitioner. And so one of our APCPs, one of our advanced paramedics, and a nurse practitioner contracted through a company called Dispatch Health, combined together out in the community, and relegated only to certified care facilities, and of which there are a few in Newburgh, and we have over 70 licensed care facilities in the fire district. So the pilot program was focused just on those facilities. And so they're out in those facilities, and they're meeting with people, responding on calls, and when appropriate, and when the call level is such that that they don't need a fire engine or an ambulance. But what a nurse can do that we can't do, for example, would be order labs, order an X-ray on scene, X-ray, diagnose and prescribe medications. Follow the catheter, which is when one becomes removed for some reason. That, my experience, that has been, we transport those patients to the hospital, right? Just to pull the catheter back in, which is a very brief procedure. Having a nurse on scene allows us to do that on scene. So they're getting care in their home. And then again, helping us to where we're not relying so heavily on the heavy apparatus and the transport units, helping the ERs as well.
What's the funding on that? Like, how are you bill that? Is that through Medicaid, Medicare? Is that?
So
always
we're using
spent?
funds to contract with the nurse practitioner,
Yeah.
Dispatch Health. Those funds are coming from the grant that we received
Okay.
through the Oregon Health Authority.
What's the long-term sustainability of that if it does come to fruition?
It's a 2-year pilot program. We hope to have enough data to support a continuation, or at least an evaluation of whether or not we can continue, either through another grant or maybe on our own. But it's really early. We've only started this in January, but very hopeful. This is one of the things that will be helpful in freeing up our heavy assets for the higher acuity calls. So the last one is nurse navigation. This is through partnership with American Medical Response, AMR. So it's only in Washington and Clackamas County. But I mention it here because it's another avenue that could prove to be successful for reducing the heavy asset utilization. And I mention it also because it's possible that down the road, Yamhill County could consider something like this as well. So nurse navigation is at dispatch, at WACA. When a call comes in, the call taker then does a triage as typical and makes an assessment. And if he or she determines that this patient has an acuity level that's low and can be handled by a nurse over the phone, they'll connect them with a nurse. And that nurse will then triage, ask questions, and they can do certain things over the phone. So these are 3 examples of innovative things that we are working on, again, while still providing high quality EMS, customer service, and all that goes into maintaining high levels of service. Same time, looking for ways that we can manage call volume increases, especially around medical calls. So, next slide, please. So this time last year, we were in front of you and presenting on our local option levy. It was on the May ballot a year ago this month. And so thank you for your continued support for our local option levy. We were successful in that local option levy. And that will allow us to bring an additional 36 firefighters over the next 5 years. And we're confident that that levy that we passed last May goes into effect in July, and it was a replacement levy. And so the taxpayers, citizens will see on their tax statements in November, the new levy rate. And we're confident that that will sustain our operations for the next 10 years. So with that, we're again thankful for your support, the support we got from the voters in Newburgh. And that's our local option levy.
How do you foresee the hiring pool for filling those positions? Is it
Yeah.
a decent outlook or?
Yeah, we're gonna talk about
You
recruitment.
set up my segue.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Great,
Yeah.
great transition to recruitment.
Like you saw it coming.
Gotta sound important.
The short of it is, it's been challenging, right? We're going through, and this happens often in public safety. We're going through a cyclical cycle right now where we have a lot of retirements occurring. You know, all those firefighters that were hired in the 90s are now coming of age and enjoying a well-deserved retirement. So we've got a lot of spots that we're having to hire for. At the same time, during COVID, some of the schools were shut down for paramedic and EMT. And then we've just seen it's been slow to increase when it comes to recruitment. Our last cycles are much lower than they used to be. Back in, again, the 90s, we were seeing thousands of applicants every time, and we had to, set up sometimes at large venues to have all the applicants come through. Now we're seeing that much lower in the hundreds, and around 300 to 400 sometimes in some of our most recent cycles. What that has challenged us to do then is get more innovative, and how can we reach potential applicants, and how can we let them know about the fire service and what a great job it is, and what a great community it is to be a part of. So we've been doing a number of things in that arena. The first thing we did was some survey work internally and did some focus groups to look at some of our newest firefighters, what appealed to them in that process, what information was most helpful. And we found in most cases, social media was a bit of an untapped resource we weren't utilizing. So we've worked to really actually have our firefighters be a part of helping create content that lets them know kind of behind the scenes from the perspective of a firefighter, what's that look like? And so we've seen that help in increasing our numbers in our most recent ones, in connecting and trying to provide information. But we still have to continue letting people know what a fantastic career this is. We continue a couple other things, which is the Portland Metro Fire Camp. We do that in partnership with Portland Fire. They hold one, we hold one, in which young ladies between 18 to 25, I think is the age group, are invited to come in for a weekend. And it's all led by a female firefighter cadre. Where they are exposed to the fire service and the work that can be performed and hands-on, and get a great opportunity to see what that career is like. We've already seen an applicant come through that. So we're excited that that's now proving to have been a good venue in introducing people to it. We also have a career day that we hold in October for just about anybody to come. They have to apply and let us know why they're interested. But again, kind of hands-on, getting them in the experience of maybe it's cutting a car, maybe it's repelling a building, but it's understanding the different facets of firefighting and what we do. The other thing that we've had is, in addition to all these new recruits, we've also had a lot of retirements, like I said, so we've had a lot of movement. So we had over 51 personnel promote to an apparatus operator, and then another 51 promoted to lieutenant. So we have new people in new positions. So we'd really have to, we've worked on our development programs to make sure that while they might not have the files and experience of some of our retirees, they're getting those as quickly as possible. And we're getting them exposure and training and development in those new roles that they serve in. Because those are our leaders for the future. So we're really trying to do work in succession planning to set them up and the fire district as a whole for success. We've also been partnering with high schools and programs that are in health careers or specific to the fire service, so that counselors and teachers also can direct them to us. And then we've done that same work at our community colleges and universities, where there's also potential for applicants that will want to come and join the fire service. So looking ahead, our strategy is we still, while the numbers are down, we're still seeing high quality individuals coming through. We benefit from, there's a lot of people that want to come work at TVFNR when they're looking at their choices. So we really look to find those high quality individuals that are driven to serve their community and be the best at what they do. And so we continue to make that our goal and our bar for success as we continue to build our workforce into the future. With that, unless you have any other questions or if that answered what you were curious about.
Yeah, no, that's good. Just a general question about it. But also, what's your guys' volunteer program look like?
Yeah, so we have a combination volunteer group that both does response in support services for fire scenes or large scenes. So they'll work to establish our rehabilitation area for firefighters that are coming out of fires, take blood pressure checks, make sure they have hydration, and help on scene and support in that way. And then we have those that more want to do like community events and education, and then help maintain our fleet of antique fire apparatus, of which Newburgh Fires number 2, I think is what we have. And they help maintain those so that we can have them in parades and events all around.
So no volunteer firefighters?
No, they have training and we're working right now to get them trained in wildland, so they can support in that role, but not necessarily in an exclusive firefighting role.
Okay.
Yeah. So moving on to some of our bond and capital projects. As we talked about, Station 35, it may be farther up 99, but quite often when we looked at that data, you could see that 35 does come down into the Newburgh area to cover when we have a high amount of medical calls. So it felt applicable for you to know. That station is pretty old and has been there for a long time. And we finally have gotten to the point that we're starting to prep the property, and we're going to do a full tear down and replacement of that. So it'll be a brand new station. We're looking at a lot of different things, especially around health and safety of our firefighters as we build those and put them together. Actually, just note real quick on a side note, you might have seen on Fox 12, we had one of our firefighters highlighted that has been going through cancer. So it's something on our hearts that's really important to make sure that we're mitigating and lowering exposure for firefighters to keep them healthy and safe. But that's already started and begun, and we're hoping by the end of 2026 that fire station will be up and running. Crews will continue to respond from a temporary station on that same property. So the place in which they're responding will not change that much, although I do believe the medic's going to be coming out of Sherwood, so it'll actually be a little bit closer to the south here. Then when it comes to Station 20, we looked at that and did an assessment of the downtown Newburgh station. It's gone through a couple of add-ons and changes. Essentially, when we looked at what was the right way to go, it was more cost-effective to do the same, do a tear down and rebuild on that one. And so we're in that early process with the city for getting the proper approvals so that we can move forward with that. The plan is for, again, crews to respond from properties right across from or very nearby to the existing station. So we won't be changing our response location very much at all is the current plan.
Great. And I'm just going to highlight the, remind and thank everybody for support for our 2021 bond. Largely these funds to fund these projects are coming from that bond that we passed. And there's other work happening in Beaverton and Aloha for some remodels and rebuilds, but we're focusing on stations that are closer to Newburgh and Yamhill County. So I'm going to touch on the training center located just outside of Sherwood. Our training center, our main building is the one you see in the background, that 2-story building. Same assessment, it just needs to be torn down and replaced. It is an old building, and we are looking forward to the opportunity to build a new facility. For the bulk of our training happens over, thousands of hours per year of training happen in that building. Our recruit academies are held out of that building. It's also where it houses our training staff and admin. And we have several events throughout the year in that building, training and ceremonial events, things like that. So looking forward to updating that facility with a new building. And then this time last year, you may remember that we were here with Chief Ulvin, Cassandra Ulvin, and I presented on some exciting news at the time that we thought we had secured some property for a new station out in rural Newburgh. That particular piece of property was not successful, as the owner determined that our plans might interfere with their plans for the property. So fortunately, though, they had 2 other pieces available, same owners, different pieces of property, and we began a new process of evaluating those pieces. And we're very close now. I can report to finalizing a deal on one of those properties. We've had our engineers looking at those properties, and they've given us the green light that those will work for us. And so want to manage expectations because I know that the expectation that we get something out there in rural Newburgh is real, and we feel that, understand that. So as soon as we can make that happen, we're going to, as in secure the land, we're going to put a sign out there, 240, Highway 240 and North Valley Road is the property we're talking about. Put a sign out there so people out in the rural parts of that community know that that we are underway with what will the next 24 months, we hope, will be a new station, Station 22.
240 and North Valley run parallel. Is it all the way through the property?
The exact location, I'm not exactly sure. The property, I believe, is in that area.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that is the hope for that property. And again, we'll come back, report next year. Anytime that you'd have us back, you want to know about where things are going with that, we'll be available to answer questions. So,
Sure.
Yeah. With that, that is next slide, please. We're certainly open to taking any questions you might have, but we'll close by just, it's a privilege and an honor to serve. We value the relationships with the communities that we serve, and Newburgh and Yamhill County, absolutely. Providing high quality fire and EMS response is our mission. And we appreciate the partnership and collaboration that we have with our local partners and cities that we serve. So we couldn't fit it all into this presentation. So there is a video, 5-minute video, Fire Chief Weiss talking about some other things that were not mentioned today. So we encourage you to scan that QR code and watch that video. And with that, we'll answer any questions you might have.
Cool. Any questions?
No questions. I live in Newburgh, so actually just off North Valley. So
Okay.
I know the area well, and
Okay.
thank you for serving us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Okay, moving on, is item F, department updates. We have none. G is work session, none. H, consent agenda, none. I is old business, none. J is other business, none. Public hearings, none. L is announcements. Commissioner King, kick us off.
Well, we could have beaten Commissioner Sterrett's record today, so that's, but oh well. Thank you guys for coming, and quick congratulations to all the newly and re-elected people that from this last week. Elections on Tuesday, or just this week, I guess. So yeah, quick congratulations out there to that. Last week I was at County College, primarily talking about public safety. Former Sheriff Svensson came and presented as well, which was kind of fun to see him, but more in his capacity as the state level. Natural resources, water sustainability, a lot of talk about fire protection from the state, and as it is wildfires across the state and moving into that season. And wolf management, a lot of talk around that as well. Had a conversation, just introduction meeting, being from Newburgh. I don't know a lot about Mac Water and Light, so I sat down with John and learned quite a bit about that. Looking forward to their yearly tour they do in August. YCOM budget meeting on Tuesday. Like everybody else, that is some hard conversations probably going to be coming up in the next month or two, just from a funding point of view, and what the partners and charging rate is going to be. So that's where that budget is looking like as well. Yamhill River access. I had a quick little update on that project, and it exciting, but I would agree that we do need to do a better job earlier with reaching out to the neighbors and stakeholders that will be along the river there. So hopefully I can encourage those guys to do that. Fairgrounds tour yesterday. Spent some time with Gary. He is a talker. He's got stories for sure. That was a lot of fun. And I meant to mention over the weekend, last week, got some emails on the Marine Board, and thanks to Jason, who's here today, and Clay, Superintendent, CPRD, kind of reaching out, trying to, and I know Commissioner, the Chair, all trying to work on some of those quick changes there. So thank you, Jason, for doing that, and Sheriff is here as well. So just trying to find some of those solutions quickly. So that's my week. Cool.
All right, last Thursday, we did have Fair Board meeting, mainly delegating responsibilities of different Fair Board members on what areas that they're going to take on throughout the fairgrounds for the fair days. Something a little bit different we're going to do is also step up single point communication persons within the different groups, from 4-H to FFA to the youth livestock auction, to hopefully we can solve some of the communication breakdown between those two and just make everything run smoother. Monday night, Newburgh City Council, they had a presentation from Waste Management. Looks like they're gonna raise rates, which most of the city council meetings I've been going to, Waste Management or Recology has been there. It seems to be the theme over the last few years. Sheridan City Council meeting also on Monday night. I gave an update to them on where we're at with our fair process for our Yamhill County Transit, and also gave them an update that our assessor is moved into the new Yamhill County campus building. Tuesday night was all day at the Capitol. Spent there with the Parkway Committee, Dave Hagerberg, John Olson, Kim Morris, Dundee Mayor David Ford. It was good. We had the chance to go around to many different senators and state reps to stump for the Newburgh Dundee bypass, and made sure that they all fully were aware of how the Parkway Committee is backing it and wanting the state to really focus on legacy projects that have been in the works for decades, and to get them wrapped up while they're going through their budgeting process. A huge thank you to Senator Starr, Rep. Nathanson, Rep. Mannix, Senator Gorsuch, Rep. Helfrich, Rep. Gamba, Rep. Evans, Rep. McLean, Senator Weber, Rep. Scharf, Rep. Elmer, Senator Pham. It was very nice for those guys to make time for us to go in there and really just, give our stump speech, something that's been coming a long time for this community, and we're starting to see now issues with the unfinished transportation projects in this area now affecting other intersections that safety-wise have been a huge concern. And our rural roads have become almost bypasses themselves, and they just weren't built for it, and it's becoming dangerous. So hopefully our message got across, and I think we'll know in the next few weeks on what that spending package is going to look like. Also on Tuesday night was the Dundee City Council meeting. Their planning commission approved the new hotel development to the tune of about $60 million. So that's going to be phenomenal for that area. Their budget committee recommended their budget approval, so that should be going through by the end of June. And their Dundee Urban Renewal Agency also committed funding to support phase 1 of the Sander State Park. Last night was Parks Board meeting. We had so far, over the last 2 meetings, we've actually had 3 applicants show up just to show their interest in the Parks Board. We haven't interviewed them yet, but we're looking forward to doing that next meeting in June. I believe we still have 2 open positions and 3 applications, so really looking forward to that. All 3 applicants are very good. Also reviewed the Parks Master Plan that we've been going through for the last year and a half. We're at 85% completion on that. Discussed some finishing touch details. One of the bigger ones was originally when we quoted that master plan out, we eliminated some project proposals that we wanted that would kind of show us or guide us on some of the different parks on what projects we should focus on and how much those projects would cost. So they're going to discuss whether we want to add back at a minimum level some of those projects on 3 very specific parks, but we're going to get a price from the company that's taking care of that master plan for us.
When is that projected to be, the master plan?
It'll be done by the end of the year. It's going to be a huge opportunity for us to start, I guess, stumping for funding any grant funds out there. The biggest concern is once we get going here is just to see if we can't get some starter funds, because then once we have that one project set, hopefully if we do it right, we can be sustainable about that, and then that can start building into other projects for our parks. There's a lot of talk about doing something at Stuart Grenfell Park, which is on your way to Lincoln City on Highway 18. It's probably one of our most traveled by parks, but it's also one of our parks that gives us the biggest issues because there's just not
The Mill Creek.
a good question. I don't know what creek that is. So anyway, there's discussion on what main project would look like there as a sustainability project to start really using our parks as an income driver. Anyway, if you're ever interested in anything park related, I really suggest you go to those Parks Board meetings. They're very interesting. It's a great group, and they got a lot of great ideas, and they are dedicated. They also have the Positively Electric Dog Fest coming up at the Ed Grenville Park. That's coming up July 12th from 10 to 2. They're really passionate about this one. They're going out, they're finding products to be able to raffle off. They're setting up booths. They have a dog trainer coming in. If you guys want any more information on that, go to their Facebook page. They have some QR codes that'll give you more details. Or track down your local Parks Board member or me, and I'll get you some more details. After the Parks Board meeting last night, went to the McMinnville Budget Committee meeting. It was nice to see our sheriff there, basically relaying concerns to McMinnville as they discuss cuts to their police department on the effects that could potentially have on our sheriff's department more than what it already is affecting us, even with how it stays status quo. So that was great that he put in the time to do that. And that is all I got. I will adjourn us at 10:43.